What would you do if love, betrayal, and desperation collided in your life? Nina's story is filled with passion, tough choices, and unexpected turns that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Stay tuned because this is a story you don't want to miss. As the story begins, we meet Nina, a 30-year-old woman. She moves through a busy shopping mall, scanning the shelves. After selecting a few essentials, she heads to the checkout counter. But as she reaches for her wallet, she suddenly realizes she doesn't have enough money. Letting out a quiet sigh, she sets a few items aside and pays for the rest. On her way home, she walks briskly, lost in thought. Then, out of nowhere, a speeding car rushes past, splashing muddy water all over her clothes. She stops in her tracks, staring at the mess in disbelief. Frustration flashes across her face. Car slows down and a young man steps out, looking apologetic. But Nina only casts him an irritated glance before turning away and continuing down the street. Meanwhile, at home, her husband, Alexander, a college professor, receives a letter. As he opens it, his expression stiffens. It's a loan notice, a final warning from the bank. If the payment isn't made on time, they will lose their home. His grip tightens around the paper, frustration building inside him. Tension fills the air as emotions rise. The weight of their financial struggles leads to an argument, words filled with frustration and blame. But then suddenly Nina's eyes fill with tears. She turns away, trying to hold them back. Alexander watches her, his anger fading. Taking a deep breath, he steps closer. The frustration in his voice is gone. Only regret remains. He never meant to lash out. He just felt helpless. For a moment, silence lingers between them. And then, as emotions settle, they find comfort in each other's arms. The scene shifts. Cross town, in a world far different from Nina and Alexander's, lives Andrew, a wealthy man who has never had to worry about money. The dining table, he sits with his wife, Tamara, and their young son enjoying dinner. But the atmosphere is tense. Tamara is upset. She feels ignored. Andrew is always busy with work, rarely making time for his family. This isn't the first time they've argued about it, and deep down she wonders if anything will ever change. The next day, at the college, Alexander stands before his students, delivering a lecture. Among the audience, Nina listens attentively. But soon, a classmate leans in, whispering softly, "Topic Alexander." As Nina listens, she quickly realizes something. Her friend has feelings for her husband. A strange discomfort settles in her mind, but she brushes it off, convincing herself it's nothing. After class, Alexander approaches Nina with a request. She needs to visit the bank, speak with the manager, and ask for an extension on their loan deadline. Without hesitation, Nina heads straight to the bank. But the moment she steps inside, she freezes. Sitting behind the desk is Andrew, the same man from the wealthy family. Seeing him there takes her by surprise. For a moment, their eyes meet. Then, after a brief exchange, they get to the point. But before they can discuss much, Andrew glances at his watch, his expression tense. An important meeting with Chinese clients awaits him. But there's a problem: he doesn't speak Chinese. Hearing this, Nina speaks up. She knows the language. She can help. Andrew pauses, considering her offer. Then, with a nod, he decides to take her along. Meanwhile, Alexander is elsewhere in the city, guiding a group of tourists. Despite being a professor, he takes on extra work as a city guide, another effort to make ends meet. On the other side of town, Andrew arrives at a casino for his meeting, with Nina by his side. As the discussions unfold, she translates effortlessly, impressing Andrew with her fluency. Pleased with her help, he hands her 2 casino coins, a small token of appreciation. Excited, Nina decides to try her luck. Placing the coins in a game, she watches in anticipation. Moments later, she wins, a large sum of money. Overjoyed, she takes a bold leap, betting it all again on 0. Andrew, sensing the risk, warns her not to, but Nina doesn't hesitate. She places the bet. This time, she loses everything. Yet, instead of disappointment, a carefree smile lingers on her face. Unshaken by the loss, she simply moves on. Andrew watches her, intrigued. Her fearless attitude draws him in even more. From that moment on, Nina and Andrew start spending more time together. That evening, over dinner at a hotel, she finally brings up the real reason for her visit, the loan. She asks Andrew if he can help extend the repayment period. Andrew listens carefully, considering Nina's request. After a brief pause, he agrees, but not without a condition. In exchange for extending the loan deadline, he demands something unthinkable. The words hit Nina like a slap. Her expression hardens, fury rising within her. Without hesitation, she lashes out, hurling sharp insults before storming out of the restaurant. When she reaches home, she sits with Alexander and confesses everything, every detail of Andrew's offer. She also admits what happened at the casino, how she had won $700 only to lose it all again in a single reckless bet. Alexander's expression darkens. Frustration builds inside him. Their financial struggles were already unbearable, and this loss only made things worse. The next day, Nina meets her friend and shares everything about Andrew. After listening carefully, her friend poses a question that catches Nina off guard, whether deep down she might be developing feelings for him. Nina dismisses the idea instantly. The thought alone feels absurd. Her love for Alexander is unwavering. Betrayal is not an option. Days pass, and Alexander does everything he can to arrange the money. But then reality delivers a final blow, a notice from the bank. No more warnings. If the payment isn't made this time, their house will be taken away. Alexander is devastated. Seeing him like this shatters Nina. The weight of their situation presses down on her, suffocating. There is no way to gather such a large sum in such little time. Then, suddenly, Andrew's words resurface in her mind. His offer, the way out. She hesitates, battling the turmoil within her. But in the end, she sees no other choice. Taking a deep breath, she reaches for her phone and dials his number. This time, her voice is steady, her words firm. She agrees, but on one condition. If he wants something from her, he must do something in return. Andrew listens in silence. Then, after a pause, his response is clear. He agrees. That evening, Nina arrives at the hotel as planned. She meets his gaze, her expression unreadable, and states her terms. She needs 3 months to repay the loan. Andrew considers her demand, and after a brief moment of thought, his decision is made. The arrangement is set. That night, Nina and Andrew spend time together, and as the hours pass, their connection deepens in an undeniable way. By the time she leaves, the weight of her actions lingers in her mind, but she pushes it aside. When she arrives home, she faces Alexander with a composed expression. She informs him that the bank has granted them 3 more months. A wave of relief washes over Alexander. A grateful smile spreads across his face as he pulls her into a tight embrace, completely unaware of the price she had paid for this temporary lifeline. Meanwhile, across town, Andrew arrives home much later than usual. His wife, Tamara, is waiting, furious. Her voice is sharp, demanding an explanation for his absence. Tension between them escalates quickly, and soon an argument erupts. Frustration boiling over, Andrew storms out of the house, leaving Tamara fuming in silence. The following day, Nina receives an unexpected call. It's Andrew. He wants to see her. She hesitates, torn between reason and impulse, but in the end, she agrees. They meet at their usual place, and once again, the distance between them grows smaller. Over the next several days, their encounters continue, each one drawing them closer than before. But then, one evening, as Nina arrives at their meeting spot, Andrew is nowhere to be found. She waits, checking her phone repeatedly, hoping for a message, an explanation, anything. But nothing comes. After what feels like an eternity, she finally leaves, confusion and disappointment settling in her heart. Weeks pass. Despite her efforts to move on, Andrew occupies her thoughts more than she wants to admit. She longs for his presence, his attention. Every time her phone rings, she finds herself hoping it's him. Unbeknownst to her, Andrew has been preoccupied. His young son has fallen ill, demanding his full attention at home. But Nina, unaware of this, grows increasingly restless. Alexander soon notices the change in her. The distant glances, the distracted mind, the unspoken words. Something is wrong. Concerned, he takes her to the doctor for a checkup, hoping to understand what's troubling her. Afterward, He makes an effort to care for her even more, trying to bring back the warmth they once shared. One evening, as Alexander reaches out to her, seeking the intimacy they once had, Nina recoils. The moment she pulls away, he knows something is terribly wrong. Unable to suppress the truth any longer, she confesses everything. Every lie, every meeting, every choice that had led to this moment. Alexander's world shatters. Rage surges through him, his emotions overwhelming any rational thought. Without hesitation, he orders her to leave. And just like that, Nina loses everything. With nowhere else to turn, she reaches for her phone once again, calling the only person left. When Andrew arrives, she lays it all bare, telling him everything that has happened and pleading for help. Listening carefully, Andrew takes a moment to consider her situation. Then, without hesitation, he steps in. Soon, Nina finds herself in a new apartment, one that Andrew has arranged for her. As she takes in her new surroundings, a sense of relief washes over her. For the first time in a long while, she feels a hint of security. The following day, she invites her friend over, eager to share the news. But instead of excitement, her friend is stunned. The question comes quickly. Is she planning to marry Andrew now? Nina remains silent. She has no answer. Later that evening, she picks up the phone once again, calling Andrew and asking him to come over. Meanwhile, back at Andrew's home, Tamara has uncovered the truth. She knows about the affair. The betrayal stings, but for the sake of their son, she chooses to remain silent, for now. A little while later, Andrew arrives at Nina's place. She looks into his eyes and wants to know just how much he loves her. Andrew smiles warmly and reassures her that he loves her more than anything. Hearing this, Nina feels overjoyed. Meanwhile, Alexander, heartbroken and devastated, turns to heavy drinking. The next day, he goes to his class, where he still sees Nina attending. That night, as Nina sits at home, the doorbell rings. Expecting Andrew, she rushes to open the door, only to find Alexander standing there. Without warning, he forces his way inside and tries to take advantage of her. But Nina somehow manages to push him away and throws him out. Shaken, she immediately calls Andrew, asking him to come over. When Andrew arrives, she breaks down and tells him everything. Then, with a deep breath, she reveals that she is pregnant. Andrew's eyes widen with happiness. Later, when Andrew returns home, he finds Tamara sitting alone, drinking. Seeing her like this, he feels a pang of guilt. He decides to tell her the truth about Nina. But surprisingly, Tamara says nothing. She just sits there in silence. The scene then shifts to several months later. By now, Nina's child has grown and Andrew takes care of both of his families. One day, during a business meeting, Nina suddenly runs into Alexander. She pulls him aside into a private room, and there they become intimate again. Afterward, Alexander looks at her with longing and asks her to come back home, confessing that he still loves her. But Nina firmly refuses. She tells him that she is happy with Andrew. However, she leaves the door open for them to continue meeting in secret. With that, she walks out of the room, leaving Alexander behind. And with that, the story comes to an end. So, life is full of unexpected twists, and Nina's journey was no different. But in the end, did she truly find happiness? What did you think of this story? Would you have made the same choices as Nina? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more amazing stories to you. See you in the next video. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy.